We are stoked.
I'm a terrible sore loser. I don't follow the rules.
All the bearded guys seem to lie. Yeah.
There are rumors galore.
I am so up and down in my emotions right now.
Retain salary.
Okay. Where there is smoke, there is always fire, etc., etc., etc.
You don't do it.
Been there, done that.
And we'll get into it later.
They know crap about hockey.
Come on. Well, I laugh it off.
I have no issue.
Here's the thing, though. I have nothing.
I'm okay with this deal.
There was no other option.
So now you have nothing.
We already blew it.
Win now, win now.
It paid off.
I will eat my pants.
Hey guys, it's Two Guys in Hockey Talk. I'm Pavel the Cat, the most insightful insider in hockey, and I've got my secondary partner in crime,
Reverend Ev, coming at you with absolutely nothing but a bunch of bogus information today. Hey, I can be
to what I talk about.
I was just thinking, hey, I look at some of these sites that got all this bogus stuff and a lot of rumors that they say that never come true. At least, I think we hit about 70%. They're lucky to hit 10. So I think we should just start doing like them, throwing it against the wall, throwing out stuff like that, and maybe we're going to get a whole bunch of clicks, but a whole bunch of haters, baby.
See what sticks at the wall. Yeah, it definitely would be interesting because some of those sites are like, this just in, Mark Stone stepped out of a restaurant. It means he's going to New York or something like that. I don't know. They have silly rigging. But grab a bevy, Evan, because we're on season 3, episode 30. We're hanging out today. We've got a lot of hockey content happening. We're close to the playoffs. I think we're like 10 days away. I did want to shout out because I'm a big basketball guy. I've been watching a lot of basketball and the playoffs are in. But there's a lot happening around that area. So if you're a basketball fan and you love some information and insight, check out ASAP Network. They've got a lot of great insight into basketball. They've got some great hosts there, as well as all other array of sports. If you're into MLB, football, etc.
Wrestling!
You come here for the hockey news, for the juicy gossip, and to hear about my cats and how I know nothing about hockey from Evan.
Well, today you know everything about hockey because you're going to lead a lot of our conversation here today. I haven't put as much thought and effort and as much research into today, and I don't have a lot of random facts, but I like to start us off with something. You were talking about something sticking to the wall. It could have been a hockey puck. Those cow pies originally that were the first hockey puck. Great stat that in a sense of information. But I got a new one that I kind of want to just quickly mention to everybody. So I found this one actually interesting. We talk about all the goals, and it's been amazing how many goals have been scored this year. Considering from the dead puck era, and they've been trying to make changes. So just a couple days ago was the second time in NHL history that more than 100 goals were scored in the NHL in a single day. And that was back to 1993. So that's a pretty cool stat, I thought. What do you guys think? Do you think that are you happy with how many goals are getting scored? I don't know. What about you, Pavel?
I'm loving it. I mean, the whole point of hockey is to put the puck in the net, and that is the whole game, and keeping it out of your net, of course, but you want to outscore the opponents. And it may not be the 80s as you remember when you were, only a day-year-old. But, but scoring has gone up, and it's exciting to see. You see all these players getting to 100-point benchmarks: Austin Matthews, Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl. And now coming up, I believe Johnny Gaudreau, Johnny Hockey, Matthew Tkachuk is close to being up there. Alexander Barkov from the Florida Panthers. All these players are they're highlighting, and they're getting all these assists. And I love goals. Now I feel bad for goaltenders and the defense because some of them clearly can't keep the puck out of the net, but
hey, okay, you just hit something. I want to jump on this right now. Let's call this my early rant. Can I do a rant?
Okay.
Okay,
rant
everyone.
away.
I'm going to rant away.
I need a sip before you rant.
Okay, you just sip away while I'm ranting. So listen, everyone. How many people, maybe it was you, I don't know, how many of you complained and said that the Canadian division's player stats were inflated due to playing in a Canadian-only division? I want to point something out. 8 of the top 13 scorers are on Canadian teams. 8 of the top 13. And this has been a wild year. Was it an anomaly because they were playing against Canadian teams? I think not. It wasn't like you guys think. Like, come on. And you need to come out now and you need to admit you were wrong. You were wrong, baby. We caught you. But of course, we know you won't because you don't have the guts to stand up and to face us and to say you were wrong, just like my buddy Pavel does every day. He says, I was wrong.
I'm sure they're screaming at the screen right now, telling you that they're not wrong. And they're the one that's wrong. But I agree. I think one of the things that was really implemented and how even early in the season when some Canadian teams were struggling is how, well, the Canadian division was weak. You're looking at the top 3 teams right now, Edmonton, Calgary, and Toronto. And you can equate Edmonton out of this because Toronto and essentially Calgary, they're pretty much like getting up there. Both 100-plus point seasons. They've got everyone contributing. They're favorites to moving on, even to the second or third round for Toronto. But Calgary, they're predicting that they can make it to the final and whip Colorado. I mean, it'll be an exciting playoff. So I agree with you. I think some of the people were a little biased towards Canadians, and we're not so sorry, eh?
Well, and let's just remember, it wasn't saying that Canadian players, it said Canadian teams and the Canadian division teams, right? So, well, what do you got on the agenda here?
We're moving over to the East a little bit because there's been some news, some reporting. Now, we know that the playoffs pretty much are set up in the East, but behind the scenes, there's been some rumblings of things happening. First off, with the Philadelphia Flyers, maybe JB Basco can comment on this and let us know a little bit more insight, but I guess there's 2 long-term staff there who are suing the organization due to fumes that they were exposed to from the Zamboni vehicle. You know, Toronto fans, you know all well about Zamboni vehicles and drivers. And apparently they've developed a rare blood clot, which apparently, you know, it's hard to get otherwise. So they're suing the organization for not properly ventilating the area that they were in. And I mean, I think it's very difficult. I'm sure they'll solve it internally. But the problem is that if you don't have proper equipment, you know, some of those fumes, they're going to get to you. Now, as we speak about this story, these 2 staff, disgruntled staff, are still with the organization. So I'm thinking they're going to solve it internally. But you never want to see anyone get sick and you know, leave, especially since we've seen other people get sick in the game and have to leave the game, which we don't want. So that's been pretty much it.
It is true though, right? You don't want people to get sick. I know that you felt very sick and tired of me sometimes. But hopefully the fumes that I give off, hopefully are not as bad as the Zamboni. It is kind of a crazy story though, isn't it? You know, it's like you would think that, is that even possible? And of course we got to be careful here because we don't really know the truth. Sometimes the truth lies in the middle there somewhere. And when they go for their lawsuits and stuff, I'm going to say, I am more skeptical usually when I see lawsuits. I'm saying, okay, prove you're right. Not just because you made a claim, but actually, can you prove you're right? So when the day in court comes, I think that's when I'm gonna. But in the meantime, I'm always just worried people are just trying to make extra money. That's just my opinion.
Now I'm going to talk a little bit about a rant that I have, but a story that we wanted to kind of focus on this time. So we posted this story on our Facebook page. So remember to check out, like, subscribe, comment, follow us, not only on our Facebook page, but our YouTube, our Twitter handle, hockey_2, unless you want to just follow Evan's rants. He's got them daily, tons and tons. I've only got pictures of my cats, so really there's no rants there. They're just a bunch of chaotic, beautiful cats. That's it, chasing each other.
Pavel's a punk. Pavel's a punk. Okay, what do you got?
But there's a story that's emerged with Dryden McKay, who was a Hobey Baker winner in the last year. He's a goaltender. Excuse me. And he has been recently suspended and put on probation for 6 months, which he willingly accepted, for finding some drugs, in his body. Now, I'm going to get this correctly so that I don't butcher this. They found in a urine sample on January 23rd of this year, he tested positive for Ostarine. I apologize if there's any pharmacists or doctors. You guys can fill us in about this information. But it's a muscle growth hormone that isn't approved by the FDA. And so it's banned by the Olympic and Paralympic moving testing. It's banned by the Olympic National Anti-Doping Policy and Ice Hockey Federation doping regulations. Now, as a champ and as a leader and as a young man, he didn't know what was in that, but he is now being banned for 6 months for something he didn't even know was in his body. And my rant is, where is the leeway for someone who is a Hobey Baker winner and some flexibility? A similar situation had happened with Nate Schmitz when he was still part of the Vegas Golden Knights. It was a different drug. Yeah. But again, he got banned for 2 games or suspended for 2 games for using an illegal substance, which apparently, again, growth hormones. But if you're given the wrong thing, who is at fault here? Is it the user or is it the person administering this?
Yeah.
Now, this guy is surrounded by elite technicians, elite medical staff and professionals. Wouldn't they know what would be in his system, right? And so my rant is, why suspend a guy in his mid-career who's having great numbers, as I posted on the thread?
Yeah.
He's having great numbers, and potentially he's a UFA. He's 24, so he may join the NHL or AHL, who knows, and work his way up, and punish this kid for something that he had very little control of. And the fact that he's willingly taking this probation on through his lawyer and representative and agent, I applaud that. But I'm a little disheartened that they threw the hammer on this guy the way they did, given everything in his history. There's nothing prior knowing for him using any kind of other substance. And it was such a tiny amount, right? That it's really hard to detect unless, of course, like I said, they were doing a urine sample. So that, to me, as you would say, Evan, is cow dung.
That really is the issue here. Right? It's a bunch of dung, if you think about it, for this guy. Why do we have these podcasts anyway? We seem to agree too much lately. So we're going to come up with some stuff we don't agree on soon, I'm sure, guys. But yeah, no. So here's a thought to me. If you really want to punish this guy, if you take 6 months, that takes a career. But how about take away something that he just earned? The Hobey Baker. Yeah. Like if you really feel, because let's face it, taking away the Hobey Baker is taking away an award of recognition, just like when baseball players were jacked with steroids or what, you take away records, you take away those things. But when you take away his career at this vital time, because let's face it, at 20, I think he's 26, right? 24. Okay, so he's 24. Yeah, he's right in the prime. These 6 months could mean literally at least at the minimum, say an American Hockey League minimum career, right? If he is a good enough goalie at this stage, because it takes goalies longer to develop. This is the main time. And like you said, why would you suspend someone and why 6 months? Why not a year? Why not a month? Why 6? It almost takes you right out of the key period of time for it. I think it's ridiculous. I think that they need to come up with something. However, I think there needs to be some accountability, though, for the people that are giving him his supply. Who needs to be facing the penalty here is the people who are providing, or the doctors that aren't paying attention, and not the athlete. Unless the athlete took it without knowledge, right?
Maybe you could speak to the fact that playing goaltender before, albeit not his best, your numbers are atrocious. Hey,
I had some good numbers.
I'm teasing. Maybe you could talk about the rhythm you need to get into in order to play to keep that consistency, right? Especially for a goaltender. Players is one thing, but to be in the groove of playing within a 6 month period, even if you're not playing back to back, talk about that.
So, okay, muscle memory, right? So we all know a muscle memory. So if you take a skater and let's just take, I mean, it was amazing. Josh Archibald coming back from myocarditis and being able to skate the same. But you're still going to notice there's things that are off on his game. Why? Because of how long he was out. Alex Stalock, there is a goalie who, because of myocarditis, also, and he's trying to work his way back in. So here's the thing: your muscle memory. The psychology part of the game, maybe you can hold yourself together, but you need to remember, and tracking a puck, you need to train those eyes on a constant basis. And when you're not tracking on a normal basis with top end players, yeah, you can go play beer league, you can kind of work with some guys, but you're actually going to cause more of a problem in your skills by working with people that don't have that skill set than you are as if not playing at all. So he'll stay in shape. He'll get some good players to come and do some one-on-one, some 3-on-3s and stuff. But he will not be the same player. And let's look at your backup. Why does your main goaltenders not take a whole bunch of time off? It's because they're going to lose that. They're going to lose the feel. And so much for goalies. You guys have seen it. Where when a goalie gets in a bad situation, Cassidy Sauvé talks about that. You can't stop a beach ball, even one of the best goaltenders. But when you're in the zone, and right now, he's in the zone. He just won the bloody Hobey Baker. That's what I'm worried about. And I actually think, Pavel, this is the end of his career when it comes to the chance for an NHL career.
That's tough. I mean, I hope not. I hope he still has an opportunity to play at a professional level. But, that...
What's your guys' take? What's your guys' take out there? I'm curious,
you guys can let us know. Now, because I'm a dog and I have the concentration level of just like someone seeing a squirrel, like, see, I can't even put my thoughts together. That's where I'm at today. We're gonna talk. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
Puck.
Yeah. My cats have better concentration than a dog.
Puck.
Woof woof. We're gonna switch gears a bit and talk about the former late owner Eugene Melnyk. Now, we understood that he recently passed, and there's a lot of kind of uncertainty surrounding the Ottawa Senators. But there was a recent article in The Athletic that painted not the best picture, not a rosy picture of the former owner. Now, there's been some kind of questions about whether or not it should have been released. It shouldn't, First off, Evan, I want to get your thoughts. Should the piece have been released after his death just so soon? And B, I mean, what does that tell you about an owner who, had kind of a different personality and approach to, as we've talked about before on the show, leadership, and in terms of being so for micromanaging or being overbearing and having very definitive lines about what they expect versus how a business should be run an organization, especially that's trying to be inclusive. So any thoughts on those two topics?
Let's take the two pieces. The article. I think it's shameful. I think it's clickbait. I think this is just another way to make money. To say, hey, I got this great story. So let's just say that the story is 100% true, right? Technically, we never know the full truth as fans, and some people that are even close can have different perspective, right? It's funny. You guys have all seen those little comics that show the guy's in a boat and he sees an island. He's like, land, right? And then someone's sitting on the little island and they see a boat coming. They're like, I'm saved, right? And so
analogy.
Yeah, but I mean that's kind of really what it is for perspective. Even when we're arguing in hockey in circles and who's the best and who can come back, and it's all our perspective. Like right now on Twitter, I'm just kind of offsetting. I'm going to come back to this. I'm in some debates. If you want to debate with me, that's good. We're talking about Johnny Gaudreau, talking about the Flames, talking about Johnny Gaudreau and Matthew Tkachuk about signing. Are they going to be able to sign both those guys for less than $20 million?
Yes.
And I'm saying yes. But what I'm saying is Johnny Tkachuk's probably not getting more than 7.5 if you go 8 years. 8 years.
Okay.
He's 28, going to be 29 in August. So are you going to sign a guy that in 4 years is getting like 0.5, 0.3, and he's got $7.5 million on your cap, and you can't get out of it, right? If he's signing 5 years, maybe he's going to make $9 or $10 million. maybe. But so anyway, I'm having these debates, right? Here it is. It's perspective. It's the way I see it versus them. I actually think Johnny Gaudreau is going to sign. Some people don't think he's going to sign. I'll tell you why. Because he's not going to Philly, and he's not going to Jersey, even though he's his home and his wife's from Philly, and he's not going there if he wants to win a cup. If he wants to win a cup, he's staying where he is. This is what he knows. His family, he's really happy in Calgary. But that's my perspective. And I think what's happened with Melnyk, and we can come back to those guys later, maybe as a part of our conversation. Pavel's like, I want to talk about those guys. But that's what I think has happened. That's what I think has happened. No, he doesn't want to talk about Calgary. No Calgary. But I actually think that Melnyk was a terrible owner when it came to mangling in the business of the team. But I think that he was a passionate hockey fan who saved a team.
Yes.
Right.
I agree. Now, I like that your short-term suspension span is the same as mine, where we went from talking about Melnyk all the way to contracts for Gaudreau and Matthew Tkachuk. So I love that transition because you propped it up the Calgary Flame fan base here tonight, but then you soured on the Ottawa Senators. So to bring it back, Ottawa Senators, we love it. And the article is going to come out whether or not. Now, people talk about litigation and stuff and worried about being sued by Eugene Melnyk. They can still sue them. It's not like they can't sue it for slander, right? But that being said, usually the Athletic is pretty solid and substantial, and they have good facts and backings in order to release. This is why they're on strong publication. And the one thing I will always say for journalism, because we're not real journalists, we just pretend to be ones on TV, is when you pay for a proper journaling source, you get better quality material, which is what the Athletic is. So, there is some truth and merit to. The problem is that there's a family grieving right now, and they're dealing with a lot of mixed emotions. I think that's one of the things that you have to understand. You have to minimize before you release it. It could have been released a little bit later. It could have been released before. I mean, I don't know who decided on the time, whether it was the editor-in-chief, whoever it may have been. That being said, I knew that Melnyk was always a difficult and challenging owner, but what owner isn't? We just don't hear about it as often because it's not a Canadian, or because they're not all in Canada. More Canadian markets know the name of their owner than Americans know of the GM or even the coach of their team, right? So that's how passionate Canadian fans are about hockey. It's the same thing with football, American football in the States. I'm sure they know way better about the owners and who is overseeing them, right? But it is what it is.
That's
he saved that franchise. He brought some vitality. We'll see where it goes. There's been some interest. I think the problem is that sometimes we forget that some of these guys who are in power and higher positions have been around for a while, and maybe they have some different types of thinking, a bit more conservative, a bit more limited in terms of how they approach the game because of where they came from. That doesn't make them bad owners. They just, sometimes things are taken out of context, and we have to be mindful, as Evan said. Perspective is very key. Now, as we're done this, and we hope that things settle up in Ottawa, and we love the team that they got around there, and I think they could potentially compete for a playoff spot next year because they finally got some stability in net.
Okay.
Well, there you go. I'm trying to prop up the Ottawa fans here. We move over to Calgary, where I think Sean Monahan is gone. Johnny Hockey does sign, but it's going to be around the $9.5 to $10.5 million range.
Whoa. And how long? How long is that term?
Well, they're going to try to go long-term as much as possible, of course, because he probably wants to stay there. And no player wants to leave when they're...
$9 million for a 33-year-old player you're going to have that might be making 60 points by then?
Well, but you don't go by then. You go by what's producing now. We've talked about this before. Well, why did Darnell Nurse get what he got? Right? Come on, Evan. You know how the system works.
Yeah, no, and but you're not dealing with a 28-year-old player, though, right? That's the difference here. True.
However,
and you're dealing with a defenseman.
The caveat that I say is Matthew Tkachuk potentially could be going to St. Louis.
Whoa. What's going on tonight here, Pavel? You're making some... Okay, Now
you told me at the beginning of the show we want to be like those crazy sites, so I'm just throwing wild ideas out
wow,
there.
Flame fans. Flame fans, what do you think? What do you think? Do you think they're going? Okay, so keep going on this Tkachuk thing, man.
So he has one more year. He's an RFA, right? So he does have a qualifying offer. So he can take a 1-year deal with Calgary. See if
$9 million for his qualifying offer, eh?
Yeah. So he could still stay with Calgary for one more season, but then he can go to St. Louis. St. Louis is a great success story. His dad played there.
They're not going to let him walk for free. There's no way, man.
Well, they can if they don't like.
Yeah.
So they're going to sign him for $9 million at 1 year.
Yeah, no. I think that he's going to sign between. I think he's going to get between 9 and 10 on a full 8 year.
I think he's going to get more than that because
not
he
on
could be
an
the
8
future
year
captain. If he stays with the Calgary Flames as their future captain,
this is
the future? Okay, question for you, and maybe the fans can let us know who is the future captain of the Calgary Flames.
That's good. That's good because I don't think Tkachuk can be the way he plays the game. That would be a bad representation. Bad representation for Tkachuk to be the captain. Not good.
I see some angry Calgary Flames fans and their jersey bright red. That flame is growing higher.
Man, see if Gaudreau stays, I see Gaudreau being the captain through it. I actually think they sign both, and I think they do it for under $20 million. They're going to max out as best as they can. I mean, Treleving has already said they're going to move heaven and earth to try and make Johnny a longtime Flame. That's all he knows. He
wants to win. What is he supposed to say to you or to the fans? What does he say? No, we're going to get rid of him?
No, but to actually go on and say we're gonna go all, I mean, you're gonna look bad if you don't have a good negotiation, even if you lost him. Because if rumor gets out that you're talking like that, and then Johnny's agent says, "Yeah, they didn't even try," that's gonna look bad for other players. So I actually think that it does mean something. You're right. Sometimes when they say they're not moving someone, they do. But they're not letting them walk. It's not. You're gonna have to replace him. There's nothing out there to replace him. Yeah. So he's a UFA. But I think no, they're gonna sign him. They're gonna give him a full 8 years. I think he's gonna take a full 8 years. I think he's gonna get a full 8 years. But it's going to keep the number down on the front by getting the full guaranteed contract. So you take so let's just take say $8 million over 8 years, right? Whereas, say you go $10 million and you do it over 5, right? You get more money, guaranteed money. So, and not to mention you can stay on a team that's going to have a couple years, 2-3 more years at least of continuing to build. And as the cap goes up, you're sitting at somewhere nice. But I don't know, man. I think
what did Hurdle just sign for? In Thomas Hurdle in what's it called? In San Jose. I gotta look this up because in my mind that could be a comparable, albeit he's not as dynamic as Johnny Gaudreau.
Okay, you look that up, and while you're looking it up, I just want to say that the San Jose Shark fans are upset with you because you said, where was he? Like you don't even remember the franchise name. You don't even know they're called the Sharks.
San Jose Sharks. I said San Jose Sharks.
You said where does he play? Didn't you just say that? Maybe my ears are just bad right now.
I said what did he sign for? Jeez, you're old.
Yeah. Or did you say, what's that guy's name? No.
You guys need to rewind and tell everyone what he actually heard. And then
I have no idea what I heard. I think I've had one too many concussions.
So Hurdle, 8.5. Thomas Hurdle 9 years at 8.1.
He can't sign for 9. He can't sign for 9.
Sorry, he's got 9 left. He got one more year at 5.62. Sorry.
Okay.
8 by 8. That's what I thought.
And how much was the salary per year?
8.1.
8.1. Yeah, there you go.
That's Hurdle on a struggling San Jose's team.
And he's younger makes a big difference.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. He's 28. Thomas
28.
Hurdle's 28.
At 8.1.
That's what I'm saying. It's a comparable.
Wow. Okay.
What did I
say? Okay. So I've said 7.5 for Johnny on an 8. So what if they come in at 8? No, hang on here. Now, remember though, Johnny's only had a couple seasons of over a point a game. Just because he had one good, you don't just load up and pay a guy. especially when he's getting old. So, but I do
Have
see
you heard of Darnell Nurse?
8.5. Eight
Have
and
you
a
heard
half.
of Zach Berensky?
So I will go 8.5 million per year over 8 years. But Calgary is going to hate the last 3 years of that contract. They are going to hate it and have to pay him out. Because now let's talk about another part. By the way, so I guess Calgary, you're our main focus here today. Because I want to talk about another part of my argument I've had on Twitter is someone like Ovechkin, right, has played this many years and he's getting hit all the time. But Johnny doesn't get hit very much, so he's going to play longer in his career, and he's going to be safer. Well, I just want to say to this guy on Twitter, by the way, he's one of my followers, so I love you, buddy. I love that you come on. I love that you argue. It's perfectly fine. Love the arguments. Just got to let you know, though, I'm always right. I just am. I'm trying to play the heel like in wrestling, you know. Sometimes I'm good at it, and sometimes I suck. And other people go, you're just a baby face. You got no beard, right? So Gaudreau, will he last longer? I want to hear from some of you guys, even right now on our Facebook Live or over on our YouTube here, if you're following us, or somewhere on ASAP, wherever you are right now. I'd just like you to put something in the comments. Do you think Johnny Gaudreau, being a smaller guy, he doesn't take as much physical hits and checks, and he's not as hard into the boards, do you think he's going to have a longer career because of his size and not playing there? Or do you think he takes more of a beating on that small body, and guys like Ovi don't have as good and long of a career? I think the answer is right there, buddy.
I think Ovechkin, for all his size and stamina that he's brought to the game, he's rarely been injured. I think the max he's come up to just under 40 games in his 16-year career. So to have somebody push Ovi around, I think Svechnikov tried to a few years ago, 2 years ago, and that didn't work out well for him, you know. And he did get injured at the beginning of the year, I think this year versus the Flyers. We talked about it. But Ovi's, nobody's really hurt Ovi the way he does. That being said, playing wing is a little different than playing center. And although Ovi is a superstar, yes, he hasn't got as much attention as other players. I mean, people went after Crosby specifically. People go after Austin Matthews. People go after Connor McDavid, But when it comes to Ovi, like, he's avoided injury quite a while. He doesn't have any history of concussions, and any major setbacks. Whereas Crosby, as you know, he's been set back quite often. And it's really affected. I mean, he could be way higher in terms of points, but now for Johnny, he is little, but we're finding that even if you're little, it doesn't matter anymore because you can still play the game for a very long time. It's about your regiment. It's about how you play the game. I mean, you look at players like William Nylander who don't really want to get hit that often, and because they know that they're one injury away from potentially being out for a while. And so if you play the game smart and now granted, you play for Daryl Sutter, you're going to have to take a hit, right? But you also have teammates that are going to stand up for you, right? So you're not going to have an Arizona Anaheim situation with Troy Terry and Jay Beagle where people are beating the cow dung out of each other. So maybe that's the thing. You need to have some big bodies on the ice in order to not be pushed around. And that's a question for the old age. Is your team big and tough and mean enough to not have your superstars be raggled like a doll? Right?
Yeah. Well, and now something interesting. I mean, Sutter actually really believes strong in Gaudreau. He praises him. And there's been a lot of talk this year. The reason that his points have even produced higher and people looked at him different is because he's going into the inside spaces now, right? He's going to those hard spots that he was always more of a perimeter player. And under Sutter, he's like changed his game. That's another reason I think that he's staying. I will mention that it has been reported by Pierre LeBrun that there's been good. His words were really good dialogue, and that just means that they both have interest in this. However, there are some people believing that in his contract that they're hoping between 8 and 9 is the common number out there. But they're saying that Gaudreau's camp's going to be trying to push for a $10 million number. So this is going to be interesting because what they have to do is they have to unload some money to do this. And now that's where there brings in speculation about Sean Monahan, like you talked about. He's got a year remaining at 6.35. He's got a 10-team no trade clause. It muddies things up. He's got a declining performance. Now, of course, he could come back and play really well. You don't know that, though, if they try to make an offseason move here to sign both. Because what if you take that $6 million and you add it to what you already got going with Tkachuk and Goudreau? Yeah. So that's going to free up some space, right? I mean, I know they still have Chillington and Mangiapane to kind of sign in there. They got a great deal this last year in Mangiapane. But I think to trade Monahan, maybe he'll come out and look really well. They're going to have to give something away to get someone to take him on. Probably a team that has some cap room. Hello, Arizona.
Arizona, Seattle, Montreal, Ottawa. You got some teams there. Now the one thing
Arizona, they need to bring in the fans. They need someone like Monahan, man, that's so good with people and that, I mean, how are they going to fill that building, man?
You know where I think he's going to go? Vegas, because they seem to be on top of every free agent that's available. But anyways.
Now all the Vegas fans hate you for rapping on them.
Oh, what? I'm just saying they're always in on everybody. That's all I'm saying. Right? Is that such a bad thing to have interest in every player? I'm not saying they're actually interested in.
Vegas is following their mantra, all in.
That's fair.
They're from Vegas. It's all in, baby. It's all That's in. Fair.
Yeah. Blue Chips. Now, the one thing that you did mention about the contract discussions, the one thing that I've enjoyed about Calgary this season is even though there's been rumblings about it, it hasn't been at the forefront of what Calgary is doing. And that is very important for a team doing as well and successfully. They could potentially tonight clinch a playoff spot and the top of the division of the Pacific, which, again, last year they struggled, which is surprising. They didn't even make the playoffs. So, that was a bad team that just righted the ship wrong.
Yeah.
And so what I like about the Calgary Flames is that their focus is Stanley Cup and Stanley Cup Finals and bringing Lord Stanley home, which I like because as you remember in Toronto, people get so swept up in what Marner and Nylander and Matthews are going to get. And now even Jack Campbell is the talk of the town. You guys need to lower your expectations and just exceed them for the playoffs and get excited. We're 10 days away from the playoffs starting. Now, we wanted to just
hang on. You brought the Maple Leafs up. We can't let this go. You right now, I felt like you said just to lower your expectations. You told the Leaf fans. Lower those expectations.
For Jack Campbell contract talks. That's what I'm referring to.
I thought you were saying lower your expectations. You haven't been by the first round in a long time.
No.
Okay. I just want. I'm gonna boost up our Maple Leaf fans. They're gonna like. I have a stat for them. Since they have brought in Mark Giordano, they are 12, 2, and 1. Yeah, pretty close. 12, 2, and 1. That is amazing, and it actually got me thinking. If they can make a push, not just be out in the first round. But I could see Giordano. He's back in Ontario in Canada. It's from his home area. Maybe I could see like a 1 or a 2 year, or kind of like the Jason Spezza year after year. Giordano has really stabilized something. He's even playing on the offside. He's been moving and playing more on the right. Yeah, it's so interesting enough. Leafs fans, you know what? Because I was not a believer that Giordano would make that big a difference, and he is. I'm going to say you can get a little bit excited, but don't get too excited till you find out who you play in the first round.
Well, so apparently stats are saying that the biggest chance of them playing, the team with the biggest chance to play is Boston Bruins. It's about 40% right now. So maybe they can finally beat the Demons and get past the first round. So we're looking forward to it. Now, I know you talked about this last week, and I know you wanted to touch on it a little bit. So we're going to kind of wet our feet, as one would say, about this topic, because we're going to go into more detail once playoffs start and in the off season. First off, the draft. It's been announced that it will be on May 10th, right? Exciting. And Arizona right now has the highest draft pick chance of picking Shane Wright. Now, we're going to go through a few players today, but let's start with your thoughts on Shane Wright.
You're talking about the lottery draft. This would be the lottery.
Lottery draft.
Yeah,
yes,
May 10th lottery.
Of course, the prospect pool.
I
don't know what I'm talking about. I know nothing about hockey.
No, you got it right. So May 10th is a Tuesday. That's going to be the day that the lottery comes in, so that we can know who's going to be drafting first, second, and third overall, and so forth. Yes, you betcha. It's exciting.
So,
and then June is the time, and it still hasn't been decided if it's going to be live in Montreal or not.
Right. So right now, the consensus is amongst most of the analytics and amongst insiders is that Shane Wright will go number one. What are your thoughts on the player, who plays center, plays in the OHL, got exceptional status to play in the OHL? His dynamic, he's lost a little bit of time due to COVID and some other stuff that's not really common for most other players. So he's lost close to a year of development. He's a World Juniors winner, under 18, U18 gold winner. What are your thoughts? Do you think he's a clear number one? And will he make any franchise, whether it's the Arizona Coyotes, whether it's the Montreal Canadiens, whether it's the Seattle Kraken, Philadelphia Flyers? Who else am I thinking of? Your Ottawa Senators, maybe. Buffalo Sabres even.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. So today, I heard Jason Greger talking on our local radio station out of the Edmonton region, talking and just saying there's no clear one favorite. I don't know what Jason is smoking. I know they were talking about Cheech and Chong up in smoke today.
It is 420.
Maybe this is that perspective, that little island, and he's like, he sees it totally different. Love the guy, but I don't agree with him. Don't agree with him at all. I actually think Shane Wright is the clear-cut favorite. Bob McKenzie has said that based on the teams, he's the clear-cut favorite. If what Jason Greger is saying, this is not a generational talent, then I can agree with him. So I like how Elite Prospects puts it, and Cam Robinson, if you're out there, I've sent you some tweets, and I'm asking you to come on our show. You work for Elite Prospects, and you do a lot of work. We'd love to have you if you're catching anything live. If anyone knows him personally, put it out there. But man, that guy is just a wealth of knowledge. But what they've done on Elite Prospects, if you guys go there, eliteprospects.com, great information to grab stuff. Occasionally, there's a few mistakes here and there, but you can find out all the latest transactions, everything.
Oh my God, Evan. Yeah, it's perfect, but there's a few mistakes. Cam, don't listen to Evan. I think it's perfect. There's no need for any changes.
So, Cam, if you're listening,
he's not coming on the show.
Cam, if you're listening, I'm smoking some of that weed that Jason Greger was talking about today. Anyway, but on there, they rate a player, and so what I've noticed is a player like Jack Eichel was rated with a franchise player, as opposed to someone like Crosby, generational player. And so I think what we're seeing with Shane Wright is a franchise player, a difference maker. He's your number one line player. You're going to be able to build around him, but he's not that generational. He's not that McDavid. He truly is more of a Jack Eichel type player. Jack is, if it wasn't for his injuries, he'd be so much further ahead, right? But Shane Wright also, like you said, missed that one part of that year, which was huge in the development. He did well. He went over to Europe, but didn't play enough games. This takes me to the goaltending thing you said. Squirrel! Let's go back over there again. That you were talking about what happens when you're not playing very much, right? And I think that happened to Shane Wright. It took him a little bit to get going in this season. He's literally taken right over. He has got back. But what I'm hearing from a lot of different people that are writing on him is that they're saying a lot that he's really been working on other parts of his game, not just offense. And we always look at offense, right? And yes. I think he's going to do well. But I'm going to go out and say it. He's going to end up on one of three teams. Of course, there's only so many teams you can end up on, so chances. But I think it will be Montreal, Arizona or Buffalo. So
I'm
one of
gonna
those
throw.
teams.
I'm gonna throw a wrench. I'm gonna throw a wild wrench. You're gonna see Vegas not make the playoffs and be in the top 10. Boom.
Oh man, could you
Watch the
imagine?
NHL throw them a bone. But yeah, no, so I agree with you. One thing that I will say about Shane Wright is I expect more of gradual development, kind of like Alex
Yes.
Lafreniere. You know, I know people put a lot of pressure on Alex Lafreniere, but he's still a good player. He just needs time to develop, and it doesn't happen overnight. Now, Capo Caco, that's a completely different discussion. I'm sure Jim,
Yeah.
who watches the show, can talk about him a little bit more. But I agree. I think he's the consensus number one. Now, number two, or you guys can let us know if you think he's going to go number one. Number two, we got Joachim Kemmel, who's a left winger, right? He's been out for a bit because of a shoulder injury, but he's been playing with Liga, and he's their leading scorer in 18 games into the season. What are your thoughts on the left winger right there, Mr. Evan?
Okay, so who are we talking about? Joachim?
Joachim
Yeah,
Kemmel.
from Liga. Yeah.
Kemmel.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna butcher all these
So-
names,
so-
but I will say
Yeah,
one
so
thing.
so why did you ask about him specifically? I'm just curious.
I'm going through the list of my 10 potential prospects that I found.
Okay. No,
But
it's
I
just
think we're
interesting where you haven't placed. I have
Oh
him
no,
actually.
no! I'm not placing these in any chronological
Oh, okay.
order.
Okay.
This is just
So by the way, well, before we go much further, one thing that we're going to do is we were going to do the prospect thing. We pushed it back, and I was trying to get guys like Cam, on the show, and I couldn't get him on. Definitely, he's probably not watching because otherwise he'd said, "Man, I got to get on that show." If he actually knew how great this show
or he
is,
probably
right?
just heard you say I make too many mistakes, and so he's like, I don't want any more mistakes to happen.
Yeah,
Especially on two guys.
or he's like, "Well, you're complaining about our website, man. You're complaining."
There's enough cow dung on this show between the two of us that we're okay.
So I was going to say, I think what we're going to do, I don't have my exact timing here. I'm going to release my Revs Top 15, and then we're going to talk prospects with people. I think that it'd be good for us to get that release, and then we can talk about why I put them in those places. So I will say, Joachim, I do have in my top 15. I'm not going to tell you where I placed them. One of the things that I'm a little worried about Joachim is just that 200-foot game. I think that he's really good. He digs in the corners. He's good on his edges. But the one thing with Joachim is he stops too much. You know how they talk about players that can turn tight and they can keep movement? When you stop and slow down on the defensive zone, you get caught flat-footed a lot of times. And I think that that's the one thing that's going to affect his standing and where he can go. His points, where he is and who he's playing with is amazing. It's amazing. Yeah. But it takes longer on development. I think we've seen that with a lot of players. Patrick Laine, you've seen that with Puyarvi. You've seen that with even dating back to the early days of Jari Kurri, Esa Tikkanen and stuff. Some of these guys, the Finns, it's just like, I don't know what it is, but I feel like the Finns are like wine. They're better with age.
That's fair. That's fair.
And the longer that they're sitting, and I don't mean sitting doing nothing. I mean just kind of building and growing. They get better finish, literally, and that's not a pun. With it.
One great player to keep an eye out is Topi Niemela out in Toronto. He's already been drafted last year, but he's had a good thing, and he's one to watch again for that finish style and elegance that they bring to the game. So
let me just bring up a player. Now, this is a player that was just signed. I was going to talk about this last week, but we didn't. Kobe, the Islanders. So TJ and the grumpy old man, I'd be interested in what their take is here on Kobe Bender. What a cool name, Kobe Bender.
I think almost all NHL names are really cool, and I look forward to seeing even more on the back of jerseys. If I had all the money in the world, I'd buy one for every player that I know.
Sweet. So the Islanders agreed to an amateur tryout with Bridgeport, so this will be interesting. But it's funny, his stats aren't showing it, but a lot of scouts are saying he's got the speed of McDavid, the vision of John Tavares and the hands of Evander Kane. And I'm like, okay, you think that it would show differently. So I'm really interested to kind of see now. I haven't followed in the last week here. I'm going to look
at the finish of Tobias Reeder.
the finish, right? So let me go look this up while you keep talking about some other stuff here. But Kobe Bender, pay attention to that name.
Side note, I do want to mention, I know it was brought up that next year there's going to be some jerseys, including Pittsburgh and Washington, of including some logos from businesses and advertisers on them.
Oh, I hadn't heard that.
Yeah, it's being announced. And so some of the main sponsors of like the Pittsburgh Penguins organization and Washington Capitals, they're going to have it on the jersey. Now, people are worried because of the fact that, it's going to start looking like the European League or KHL, where it's just like a NASCAR vehicle. Yeah. There's like stamps and stickers all over, like those high school or junior high binders you had where you just put whatever sticker you had all covered. Which, I understand, owners are always looking for ways to increasing revenue, especially with all the high costs that they have to undertake. And I believe it was Don Waddell out of Carolina who indicated that he didn't care if the whole jersey is covered up. But the fans love authenticity and that clear openness of any jersey. And I think we need to remember that we need to keep that there, especially for selling. And when you're playing on the ice, it makes a big difference of what you're looking at. But anyways, that was just the side story that I figured I'd talk about. And we got another player, but I'll let you finish your topic.
Well, okay, yeah. So Kobe Bender hasn't started his career on his amateur tryout, so they're still working him in. He's not registered or playing a game yet for Bridgeport of the Islanders with it. So actually, we've hit our time. So why don't you throw one last thing at us here before we wrap up?
Will do, but before we do that, I just want to ask TJ and the Grumpy Old Man about Atu Ratty, who was also just recently dropped down to their AHL affiliate, right? So, he was picked up. He was a younger prospect. He did okay this year. He didn't have as much ice time as they indicated on the previous episode. You guys should check out how Barry Trotz doesn't play his young players, but it'll be interesting to see. But the final one, Logan Cooley, the center. What are your thoughts on him?
Oh, Logan Cooley, man. So, man, it's tough because I don't want to tell everybody exactly where I'm actually placing some of these guys.
So you're going to save that, and you're going to everyone make sure to tune in next week when we talk more about it.
Let's just say Logan Cooley comes out of the U.S. National U18 team, the U.S. Development Program. So if you remember just a couple of years ago, that's where Jack Hughes, Caulfield, a whole bunch of them came right out of. Let's just say they keep producing and they don't stop. And there's a lot of talk between those that know of Matthew Savoy in Winnipeg and Logan Cooley. Where are they situated? And let's just say that Cooley is being ranked and put as a potentially better prospect than actually Matthew Savoy. So
interesting. I do want to make a bold prediction that the U.S. in the next 5 years is going to produce way better players than Team Canada in terms of what is in the NHL. But that's food for another thought for another time. It's been fun. Any last thoughts, Evan, before we wrap it up?
Well, yeah, my thought was, guys, have you been watching this guy lately? My co-host has stepped it up. He knows more information than he's known through our first 2.5, almost 3 seasons. And so I'm proud of you, buddy. You're coming up with information, getting a greater knowledge and understanding. I'm glad that the encyclopedia has been helping. And
you'd be surprised what you could do when you don't do your actual job and just do hockey.
So yeah, so just
as my wife has told me when hockey's on again. Hockey.
Yeah. My wife's like, she goes, "Oh, you got another one? You guys are doing another podcast? What are you doing today?" And I go, "I'm working on. I got to do some research. But your hockey podcast isn't tonight." And I'm like, "I know, but I got to do some research all week long." She's like, "Yeah, but I thought this was only supposed to be a one-time thing, like just on this Wednesdays, or something." Yeah. I'm just like, "No, honey."
So I do have a fun story if I may quickly share. So I was with my in-laws over the Christmas holidays, and what's it called? And we're sitting, and there was an Oilers game happening that day. I believe it was against either the Devils or the Islanders. It was a back-to-back. And I know Edmonton lost the 1-6-5, and then in overtime versus the Devils, and then 2-1 against the Islanders. But we were supposed to do a family outing with my wife's family, and my father-in-law said, well, he has to do research, so he has to watch Oilers, which they're Vancouver fans. So I was blessed to be given permission to watch Oilers in a Vancouver household and to quote it as research.
Well, hey, just we want to throw this out there for you Canuck fans, just on behalf of the in-laws, right? Let's just say Vancouver, we both gotten back. Niels Hoglander, torn muscle, groin area, ouch. They don't know his time return. That pretty much nailed the coffin. I'm sorry, guys. I don't see much possibility now, but I am excited about the Canucks next year, and I don't even like the team.
Well, guys, thank you for tuning in. Make sure to like, share, subscribe. Follow us on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. Follow Evan at RevanAv on Twitter. He's got some great insight, and he'll argue with you until he's blue in the face. We love you. Check out ASAP Network. They've got a whole slew of hosts and a lot of great content for all sports, all needs. And Evan, take us away.
On behalf of Two Guys in Hockey Talk, in the meantime and in between time.
Keep your sticks on the ice. Stay safe.
And your head up. Cheers.